Hey folks, you know I take my trail camera intel pretty seriously. It's a huge part of how I build my hunting strategy, and I'm always looking for gear that just flat out works. Stuff I can rely on. Backed by solid people and the best customer support in the business. That's exactly why I run Tactacam Reveal cell cameras. Whether you're just getting started or you're a full-blown data junkie like me, they've got a camera to fit your budget and your hunting style. My go-to currently is the Reveal 3.0 series with fully integrated GPS. These things are dead simple to set up. Less fiddling, more scouting and hunting. And they run on most major service providers and will automatically connect you to the strongest signal in your area. So no more hiking to the top of a ridge just to realize you've got the wrong service provider. Been there, not fun. Here's the kicker. You don't even need an SD card. That means fewer trips in, less pressure on your spots, and more real-time intel sent straight to your phone. And if you pair it with a Reveal solar panel or a lithium cartridge, you can keep those cameras running longer and spend more time doing what actually matters. Scouting new ground, dialing in a setup, or maybe, just maybe, finally cleaning the garage like you told your wife you would before the season started. Don't just take my word for it. Check out Tactacam Reveal at tactacam.com. Tactacam. Everything you need to take your hunting to the next level. Stay more comfortable, more concealed, and in the stand longer with Oscio gear. Premium camouflage apparel created for bow hunters by bow hunters. Oscio's revolutionary patented camo patterns and innovative features are designed to keep whitetail bow hunters totally invisible and dead quiet. Elevate your game with Oscio. Visit asiogear.com and take 20% off your purchase with code TRUTH20. You know, when it comes to mobile hunting, weight and efficiency matter. And that's why for years I've trusted Tethered, the industry leader in saddle hunting gear. Like always, this year they've taken it up a notch with their new whitetail frame pack and the hybrid or the minimalist bino harness. And if you're looking for their most comfortable saddle they've ever built, meet the all-new Carnivore 2P. If you're like me and spend long hours in season scouting, hiking miles, and pulling those all-day sits, you got to check out Tethered's gear. I spent over 30 days this October and November chasing a particular buck. Long hikes, long sits. And Tethered system kept me dialed in. My kit, the Ultralock saddle, 1-Sticks, Predator CFX platform, and the Fast Pack. If you're serious about staying mobile and staying quiet and hunting smarter, check out everything they've got at tethered.com. Tethered, made for saddle hunters by saddle hunters. Welcome to the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Tactacam Reveal Cellular Cameras. I'm your host, Clint Campbell, and you're listening to episode number 432. Today, I'm joined by my buddy, Greg Litzinger, to talk about adaptability and hunting without expectations. So stay tuned. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Truth from the Stand Deer Hunting Podcast. And I've got my good buddy. This is our... I think it's called biannual. Yeah. I don't know. We do it twice a year usually, get together. But I got my good buddy, Mr. Greg Litzinger, on here in the house. We do these face-to-face in person. Yeah. What's going on, man?
What's happening?
Chilling, dude. It's been way too long for us to get together. I was trying to remember the last time we actually saw each other face-to-face. It probably was like last... I was trying to remember if you had your...
It was before my surgery.
I was going to say, it was before your surgery, I'm pretty sure. Because you still had the splint on your wrist. And I think that was what we were talking about, was like, you were like, I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, so that was last March.
Yeah.
Because I got cut March, and then I got cut again in July.
A second time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So nice to do it twice.
Yes. Yeah. Didn't get enough the first time. I had to go back for some more. That
didn't hurt enough, so let's do it again.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, it was a struggle because I know the last time we talked, we've talked, obviously, you and I many times in between, but last time we talked on the podcast, you weren't sure, how you were going to shoot, if you're going to be able to get back in time. I think you were hopeful at first when you had the first one in March that you were hopeful that, maybe mid hunting season, that you would be able to shoot a very low poundage bow, but be able to shoot, nonetheless.
Normally, yeah.
Yeah. But then I remember, you were texting me. I think you were either on your way back from I was almost like in your care center, like your care group. Yeah. Like you would send me pictures of like your x-rays and stuff like that. Let me know what's going on. And I remember you sent it to me. It was like, I think I'm going to have surgery again. And I was like, oh, dude.
That was he said that the first surgery, like it went well, and it just got an infection in the pin, had an external pin. They were holding everything together, and we tried fighting with antibiotics, and it just kept swelling and swelling. Like you couldn't even see the pin that was like in there. It's like, and I was in so much pain, and you know what I mean? I got a high tolerance of pain, and it was like I went 4 or 5 days, and I was taking the medicine they were taking me, the antibiotics, like it was like extremely high dose.
Octane.
Yeah, like it was making me nauseous. Like
yeah, that stuff at the high dosage, man. Those things make you feel like
dude, it destroyed my stomach. I was in a headache all the time. I'm like, and I couldn't do it. So I was like, we got to pull the pin, and it was like instant relief, like pulling that pin out, getting that out, and like just all the stuff that came out. And it was like within a day, I was like, oh God, like it just felt better.
Right.
And then we were hopeful that,
because at that time they were hopeful that maybe it healed enough to where like the pin was in long enough that it would like take hold on like the rest of the way on its own. Yeah. How early did the pin get pulled versus how long it was supposed to stay in?
They say 6 weeks. I made it 3.5.
Really? Damn.
You know, and like I said, the longer the pin is in there, the better. But I don't understand doctors. They didn't give me antibiotics because you have antibiotics in your system. And I don't know, call me crazy, but if you have an exposed metal rod coming out of your, like, wouldn't you want antibiotics like in the system to fight it? But I guess they
like
don't.
Preemptively, like low dosage maybe?
Yeah, because I had a situation, I had pins in my foot and they did the same thing. And I remember waking up and I was trying to sleep, and I ended up taking the cast off, and my toes were purple from an infection. I drove myself to the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital while they gave me an IV line. Yeah. Like it was like bad. Like I might lose
a digit.
I might lose a toe here. You know, so it's like I literally called and I told
you could
Monica,
start a podcast, the 10-Toe Chronicle, or the 9-Toe Chronicle. That you and Dan would be like. It'd be like kissing cousins almost, you know. If he hears this, which he probably won't, I might text him that.
But I told Monica like 2 days after, I was like, they didn't give me antibiotics. I was like, this is bad. And she'll tell you, like, if you ever see her, she was like, I had called the doctor. I was like, no, you're good. I was like, no, you don't understand. I have an exposed pin. This is bad. Mm-hmm. I want some antibiotics. No, you don't need them. And it's like, cool, thanks. And now I have a fused wrist because of that.
Right. Awesome. Which was like what you were trying to avoid in the first place.
Yeah, I did the whole therapy. Like I was good. But my line of work, it's like the grip strength was just so weak because, you know, trying to squeeze, all the ligaments just expand, or all the bones in your hands just get bigger. And it was like I got bones going places they shouldn't go. And I'm like, I just had no strength. Good flexibility, range of motion. I just couldn't grab like a 5-pound weight off the floor.
Right.
And it was like, it would just go and just hurt, and then it would just like fall out. I'm like, well, this is my line of work. I'm not a desk jockey. You know, I'm not shoot a bow, ride a bike, all these things. I'm like, and tried to come up with a plan and basically a salvage surgery. Mm-hmm. So it's like, cool.
Cool. You love the sound of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Salvage surgery.
Yeah.
You'd think they would give it a better name to make it sound like it's like the get back to great surgery.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's
I don't know anything.
The first doctor I went to with this, that he was probably because of the high failure rate with the first surgery I had, with the pins not holding, you know, or it's not holding, you know. He was like fusion surgery right from Jump Street. So I was like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. I want to go somewhere else, and still ended up with fusion. So
right, yeah, yeah, man. Like you had plenty of adversity to go through this year. Not just, I mean, if that wasn't enough, right? Like that's the worst part of it, right? Is because like it's your wrist, your health.
Yep.
You know, surgery's painful in general. Anyone that's had it like knows it's not pleasant. You know, you try to avoid it at all costs and do whatever you can to avoid it. Definitely don't want to do it twice if you can help it.
4 months apart.
Yeah, you know. So there's like that adversity of it, right? Where it's just like going through the rehab of coming back from a surgery, right? And then, you know, for all you or I or anybody who listens to this podcast, you know, it's like, you know, pretty active people like to work out, you know, run, lift, do some push-ups maybe, you know what I mean? And then if you go beyond that, it's like the lifestyle stuff that we enjoy is not sit around, you know, and, you know, hang out at the country club. Like that's not our, you know, that's not our gig. You know, we want to get out in the woods and
live
and hunt, live, bow hunt, fish, whatever it is, that you do,
work.
Or work, you know, like we glossed right over that, you know.
Who needs money?
Yeah. I'm just assuming, you know, there's a ferry that drops it off somewhere. You know, it's like I wish it were that way, you know. And so you had all kinds of adversity trying to get back to shooting a bow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because hunting season was coming up, and like you were saying, it was like, you know, your job, you can't, with that surgery and that recovery, it's like you can't work physically.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do your job.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, just the uncertainty. I think that's, and I've told a lot of people, I mean, I've been busted up a few times, but this whole fusion is the first time I've actually ever felt human. Because I can't power through it. There's no like, there's no
just suck it up.
Yeah, there's no powering through because the wrist is like,
no dice.
This is all you got. It's like I just want to like even like just washing your back, like the wrist don't. It's like I had to buy one of those loofah like long like. It's like
I wish this was on video right now so people could see the hand gestures that you got going on because Greg is acting out his shower methods right now.
I get like one of those loofah rope back scrubber things, and I'm like, this is where I'm at, and I'm like, because I can't, like, there's a certain.
Let me ask you this: did you get one of those things to sit down in your shower yet?
I have one.
Yeah, you got one of those. You're squatting to pee. Yeah. You got to sit down in the shower.
I know, like, I tried to take a bath after the first one, and tubs aren't very, like, old. My house is kind of old, like the first floor, so it's like, it's a small tub.
Yeah.
It's not built for an adult. I remember sitting, I was like, man, I'll sit in the tub, it'd be great. It was like, I might as well sit in a 5-gallon bucket. I'm like, this is not very comfortable. And it's like, oh, this is terrible. And I was like, because I don't get anything wet. So I'm like,
yeah.
And I just stunk for like 2 weeks. I just washed my arm, but I was like, I can't take a shit. Like if I can't take a shower.
Yeah, can't get it wet.
Yeah. And then it's like, when I'm in there, it was like one hand, I'm like, I can't even hey, Monica, come wash my back. And it's like, all that stuff, uncertainty, you know?
Yeah. Or at least it wasn't your ass wiping hand, though.
True.
That's good. Because otherwise you had Monica come in, you know, it's like,
hey, babe, how much do you love me?
Take marriage to the whole next level, you know? It's interesting how when you have an injury, you know, that's significant, right? Because, I mean, my shoulder wasn't as bad as your wrist was, you know? I mean, was supposed to require surgery. So it definitely limited me and things that I could do. But that was even still one where it's like it was, you know, cause you had to have a similar kind of shoulder issue, right? Like the type of tear. And you know, I didn't do myself any favors. I went and dislocated or separated my AC joint then in jiu-jitsu too on top of it, which was like really what kind of made it that much worse, you know, exacerbated the already existing issue. And they wanted to do surgery, but literally the surgeon said, he's like, you can wait as long as you want to wait, as long as you can tolerate the pain and you can do whatever, and you do as much as you want to do. Yep. Like if it's limiting you and you're okay with that, then that's fine. And if you can tolerate the pain to do the things you like to do, then you can go on for however long you want to go on, you know. I was able to do some rehab with a guy named Artem. Shout out to Artem, awesome dude. Got my shoulder back to being stronger than it was before and shoot a bow without pain and stuff like that. But I know what you're talking about, where there was a moment where you kind of have that, like, okay, so this is, I'm limited now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I'm at. And that's hard to kind of just, aside from the hunting part, you know, because it was the same thing for me to a degree where it was, I couldn't sleep right. Yep. You know, I had to finagle like a jacket on or like a shirt on because I couldn't just put it on like I had done for 45 years prior to that, you know what I mean? And it was just all those little things, you know.
That you take for granted.
Yes.
Then you can't do, I mean, like, just getting stuff like off the shelf. Like, I didn't realize like how much I use my left hand. Like, that, like.
Yeah, because you're right hand dominant, but.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, like I tell, I guess now, because it's like, my left hand's my fine motor skills. The right hand's like a hammer. Mm-hmm. It's like a micro screwdriver in the left hand and a hammer neck. Now, trying to do stuff that I always do, I was like, with the right hand, it's like just the brain it just doesn't work. I'm like, just turn to the right. And it's like, but the left's like,
Zoop.
yeah. And I'm like, I have to relearn all the things. I'm going to go back to like in the workplace, it's going to be the same thing. Like I'm going to have to relearn my job.
Yeah.
Because there's severe limitations, it's like, all right. And even stuff around the house, I'm like, okay, this is, like getting on the floor, like I can't push myself up. I have to make a fist and go up. I'm like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because it's like you try to do it the other way. It's like, yep, that hurts. So it's like, so now I'm always like, I didn't realize like how many times I use my left arm to get up. It's like, now it's like, oh, I got to use like my right or like make a fist to get up. So
yeah, it was the same. Like you don't realize how much you use, especially because my shoulder that I hurt was my left shoulder, right? And I didn't think much about it, to your point, because other than shooting my bow, it made it very obvious, But I was like, like how much do I actually do that would hurt my left shoulder, And to your point, it's the little things, like when I get up off of like the couch or if I get up off the floor or whatever, I use my left arm usually. Like even though I'm right arm dominant, for whatever reason, that's the side I lean to get up. It's just like when I reach for things, I often reach with my left hand instead of my right hand for whatever reason, And it's, but I wonder, do you feel like, and so now people are listening are like, dude, I'm tired of the medical update. Like what the, we're getting there, people. Just hang tight,
Settle down.
Settle in. We got a lot of time. Put your feet up. Stay a while. Greg and I haven't talked in a while. So, so do you feel like that having the limitation has, of course, if you had it not to do over, but if you had it your way, you would rather have not had the injury at all.
Oh, 100%.
Obviously, right? That goes without saying, right? But do you feel like having the injury and forcing yourself to like adapt to do things, and we're going to jump into some hunting related stuff here in a second, has made you better at things? And we don't need to go deep right now. We'll get to some other stuff. And the reason why I ask you that is this, right? So again, just going off of my experience, right? And a buddy of mine recently hurt his neck training, and he's had neck issues from other sports or whatever, but he hurt it bad enough now to where it's like he lost the strength in one hand and one leg, and it's like, and he's a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. And the challenge is like while he's getting it addressed now, but it's going to be a little while before he can train again, and he'll have to probably, especially at the beginning, train differently than he ever has before, and it's hard for him because he's really good, and he's dominant. And I remember when I hurt my shoulder, I was talking to my coach about it, and I had contemplated at first about taking some time off, and he actually said, he's like, the best thing actually, as long as you can protect yourself and not get further injured, he was like, for your development, he was like, is to continue to train and roll and not be able to use your left arm to its fullest ability. He was like, because it'll teach you to adapt your game, and now you have to do things completely differently. He's like, and then when you get the use of your left arm back, you get all the stuff that you used to be able to do, plus all this new stuff that you can do now. You know what I mean? That's not using your left arm. And so he's like, it kind of it's forcing you to expand your game if you're willing to kind of go through.
You got to adapt.
Yeah, getting from like, I'm good at this to like, now I suck real bad again. You know what I mean? Like to fall down. So I'm curious for you, do you feel like it's made you better at certain things or anything in general, having to kind of go through that and kind of relearn things? And
I don't know if better. It just reinforces patience because they're like the limitations. And maybe it's a combination.
And that's a skill in itself.
Yeah, combination because I'm getting older, and stuff like. I find myself I'm a lot more patient. At least I think. I could be wrong. Monica
probably has a different feeling. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Like when it comes to like Annette sometimes, like I feel like I'm more understanding because she's learning to do stuff, and it's like, and I'm like, well,
I get it.
I can't really get mad at that, It's like because I like there's a certain thing, so it's like it kind of like hits differently because it's like she struggles with stuff, and it's like, and I don't want to help her all the time, so it's like I just like I let her sit, and I get because that's when she's gonna learn, and it's like, man, that's just like me, and it's like, so I find myself just not jumping in as much. Like I'll let her flounder a lot longer than probably most parents, and like that's I think Monica and I we disagree on that.
You and I agree on that, though.
Yeah, it's like struggle, you'll sink or swim. And I'm in that same boat where it's, I picked up, learned to shoot left eye, left-handed bow with a mouth tab. Like, it was very humbling going from some of my skill set I can shoot extremely well to not shooting extremely well and doing something completely different, shooting with the left eye, and drawing with your mouth, pushing the bow forward and learning how to build like a recurve arrow, like completely took me out of my norm and put me in a different space. And then even like during, the struggles, it took me a long time to be proficient. Like, I didn't go out hunting. I mean, it was damn near October. Our season starts in September.
Yeah.
I was like, if I can't shoot a pie plate at 20 yards cold with a broadhead, I'm not going out. And that was like where I set my limit, because I don't want to, 20 yards was far. I was like, but 18 was like my range. That seemed to be where I was like, I'm the most comfortable. My setup was, I had a 25-inch draw length, 42 pounds, a 500 grain arrow. So it was like 20 yards, like arrows are dropping. Yeah.
Yeah.
And learning the, hunt, the limitations. I was like, I'm hunting from the ground. Like, I had to change everything. And it was, we talked earlier, like off the podcast, and it was very entertaining. It was a fun hunting season.
Right.
Because I had zero expectations. There was no, like, I need to do this. It was like, I'm going there to try and kill a deer.
Just going to go out and try to see something or get on something.
And like, I didn't run, I got cameras, but I pretty much hunted I already went out, 13 times maybe all season. Like shooting the bow, it caused me a lot of pain in my jaw and mouth area. Like, I cracked 2 fillings. Had to get that redone.
Dude, that's commitment, dude.
Yeah. And it's like, and I would get headaches, like, because you're biting down so hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I had to shoot every day. It was like a recurve. If I didn't shoot every day, I go out there and it was like, I gotta shoot multiple arrows every day to stay on target, because I'm right eye dominant. So it's like pulling back, I have to literally pull back my right eye closed every time, which is weird, because it's like, and then shoot. If I pull back with both eyes open and try to close left eye, I was not very good at shooting.
Right.
So it was a whole, like, so many steps need to happen for that arrow to get to where I wanted to go.
And before, it was just, you would take that for granted because you could just pull back a bow and let it rip.
Yep.
And you would get frustrated, if you didn't make a good shot, even if you were like in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I really didn't concentrate anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could shoot well, not saying you should, but if you shoot long enough, like anything, you can get good enough at it to where you can half-ass it sometimes and still get by and do okay. Plenty of people do that, right?
Yeah,
especially if you're really good, and you're a really good shooter. So, on your, I remember you and I would go to the 3D range and shoot together, and I would have a great round, and you would have a so-so round, and it was still as good, if not better than my great round. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so you're, that's humbling.
Yes.
The fact that you couldn't just pick it up and let it rip.
Yeah. And if it was the other way around, I think it would have been a lot easier, but that left eye, it literally had to stay closed.
That probably was the hardest part.
Dude. And it's like, and then like, I got to make the mouth tab, if it's too long, too short, if the mouth tab was not far enough in the mouth, too far out, like it changed your point of impact. So it's like, I had to find a way, basically, put the mouth tab on, and I'd have to, put it between my fingers like I was smoking a cigarette or a joint or whatever. And it's like, so I literally had to hold it because it was like the perfect spot where then I'm like, so anytime I shot, I had to, so there was a whole like
system.
Yeah. And the first deer I shot at, that was just, I shot like 10 inches high left and his back. Because it's like, it's just like, it was fading light. And I'm like, man, I'm going to shoot this deer first deer in range. I'm gonna let it eat. And I just remember watching the lighted knock just go flying in the woods. And I'm like, what was that? It was like, I don't even know. So I'm like, and I was like, I wasn't mad, but I'm like, how'd that happen?
Right.
And then the force was like, okay. And then with the mouth tab, it's like, you have to drop the lower jaw. You can't do this.
Pull back, right? Because you pull your head back.
Yeah, you can't open your bow jaw. So it's just the bottom. like almost like a fish. You make
right.
So
Make
it's
the fish mouth.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, and it took me a while to figure that out. And then like the next year, same thing. I missed like 4 deer before I actually killed one.
Right. Dude, I want to. So when you were making the switch to shooting with a mouth tab, like for one, I remember you and I were talking about it one day, and I think I walked out. I think I was sitting in this room and wrapping up with work or something like that. And we were texting or talking or whatever it was. And I walked out to the living room and was talking to my wife, and I'd mentioned it, And I just remember saying to her, I was like, man, I don't know if I could do it. I was thinking in my mind, I was asking myself if I, wasn't going to be able to hunt this year for whatever reason, or thinking back to when I hurt my shoulder. Right. Because my solution was I just dropped the poundage of my bow. I went down to like whatever it was, like 40 pounds or something like that. And I was going to use that bow and just shoot. To your point, my distance was only going to be about 20 yards max. And that was going to be all I had. But I was at least going to be still able to shoot how I typically shoot, And I was asking myself, do you think, could you do what Greg is doing and reteaching yourself how to shoot with a mouth tab, or would you just pack it in?
Could have got a crossbow. Like,
that was the thing. You and I talked about that, and that's the one area. Like, I'll just be candid. Yeah. I think crossbows are great for certain groups of people, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not a huge fan, and this is nothing against people who use crossbows. Like, I don't give a shit what you use.
Sure it is.
It's not against those people per se, right? I don't care what someone uses as long as it's legal means of take, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't mean I have to be a fan of it. It doesn't mean that I think that it's necessarily correct. Yeah. I'm not, but if someone wants to use it and it's legal, like, by all means. But I personally feel like those are kind of for certain groups of people, like, to help kids get in and have some success, so they want to stay in hunting, help people who have an injury, that want to stay in the field, people who are disabled, right? Someone, or once you get, to a point of being where you age out of being able to effectively shoot a horizontal bow, whether that's a compounder, whether that's a longbow recurve, whatever, right? Like, to me, that's where that should really live. It's a debate for a different day. But that would have been a really easy route for you to take to do that. And I know you and I had multiple conversations about it. And when you were like, I'm going mouth tab, I was like, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. I remember talking to Tony Peterson about that. I was like, the only way, like, I have the same thoughts with the crossbow. The only way that I could do like a crossbow, I would have to exhaust all options beforehand. I mean, fully exhausted, like not just a week or two or a month. Like, I would have to give a mouth tab like 2 full years. Yeah. It's like, okay, it's hurt my jaw. It's caused me pain. Like, okay. Like,
how can I adjust? Whatever.
Yeah. Like, it never crossed my mind. Like, I just stopped hunting when it got so bad. With the tail. I was like, I had meat in the freezer. Like, I'm good. Like, I accomplished what I needed to do. Like, I checked a few boxes off of Greg's whole life story.
Right.
So I was like I'm kind of good. And like, I still went in the woods. Yeah. I took the bow for a walk. I wasn't shooting the bow. I don't think I would have shot a deer if I had a giant. And but I mean, I didn't even go out a lot of times with the bow. I just went out scouting. I still was out in the woods, glassing and hiking, learning.
Yeah. Do you think going through, this whole ordeal with your wrist and having to learn how to shoot with the mouth tab, and
I'm like a caterpillar coming up with chrysalis.
Right. Dropping some words there, son. Do you think that in hindsight now, of course we said at the beginning, like, if you could choose, you would prefer to not to have the injury, right? That's a no-brainer. But do you think in hindsight now, looking back, that you're actually better off, not physically, but better off for having had the experience, having to go through that, learning something new, having a different perspective on, like, when your daughter's trying to learn something new, knowing now you can relate with the struggle, because everything for a kid is brand new. Yeah. Right. And we forget that sometimes as adults, where we're asking them to do something, they're like, well, I don't understand. Yeah. And you're thinking to yourself, well, how can you not understand this? Yes. Right. But now, you just had that experience where it's, Remy that shot with mouth tap.
Yep.
If he were talking to you, he could be the one going, why don't you understand this? This is easy, but you've not done it before. So is there a part of this that maybe in a weird way you're thankful for it?
Well, the last, I don't know if we talked about it here, but it was the most fun I've had hunting, being in the woods in a really long time. Having no expectations, just shooting, from the hip, basically going out like I want to just follow a fresh sign until I find deer. If I don't find deer, it's fine. It's like, and just having that ability to almost like a good reset, good mental, emotional reset, and I think mentally I'm probably better,
in a better place.
Isn't
that crazy?
Yeah, it's you go through like that adversity, like you're because I'm different now. Like I know like I have the physical limitations wears on me. Like I'm well aware like my 70s aren't going to be as cool as I thought they were going to be for me.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, today's the day. Like this is it. So it's like you appreciate a lot more. Like I've had a few other injuries, and it's like he had the same type of epiphany. It's like, yeah, like this is it, man. Like I might not be here next year, or year after. Like life happens, So it's like I'm just going to enjoy it, And I find myself when I'm not, I can just enjoy the little things, I kind of with my daughter, like taking her back when she was young, I could just watch her, like when she was just crawling on the floor, like entertained by dirt and bugs. It's like I find myself almost like in that same place. It's like I used to watch her do that. I was like, man, this is so awesome. She's just seeing things for the first time, enjoying it. Like I had those moments where it's like, yeah, I get it now. Like,
and this injury kind of helped you see the deer woods for the first time again through a different.
Where was it? It wasn't like a job or like I need to do these things. It's like it took me back to because what the limitations of the bow. Like I hunted woods I hunted when I was 14. Like I went back to like some old stomping grounds. And it was like I remember walking this woods with my dad. Like same 20 yards was max. It was like 30, 40 years later. Like I'm at the same place, and it was like this is cool. Like it's like and it sucks to have to go through that to get to that point, but like to make the best of the situation is like, okay, like this is fun, and like, and my goal was to shoot at any deer that was in range. I didn't care what it was, any legal deer in range.
Yep.
And I was slinging arrows left and right. Like, so I was like,
you get a great year, you know what I mean? As far as like, people like for me, for example, I had a good year by the experience that I had this year, no field tags, but I've talked about it plenty on here, but the year that I had was awesome. But I did not get one arrow off, off the riser, and there's something to be said for just being able to sling arrows.
Yep. It's, and like, I forgot how much I like to just shoot at deer.
Yeah. Like, right.
Cause like looking back, I was talking to my buddy, Tony, we've been scouting a lot. He's actually, what I went through brought Tony back into the fold a little bit. Like he's shooting his bow, put new strings on his bow. He ordered a hang on, element. Is it ultra? Is it element?
Elevate or something?
Elevate, yeah. Ultra, like 6 pound stand. Like he's all pumped. So we've been scouting a few times, and it's like my experience kind of motivated him because he's like, because I always tell him, like, dude, this is it, man. Like there is no future technically. Like this is the season. I want to enjoy this, and it brought him into the fold. So he's all like excited about stuff. So it's like it's cool. And we talked about it. All the deer we used to shoot, like we used to just shoot, man. Like it wasn't about it antlers. It was about I got a freezer full of meat. Like we're good,
right?
My Annette loves deer meat, loves chops, loves loins, and she told me, kill more deer, Dad. Kill more deer. So it's like next year, it's like I'm gonna go out and do the same thing. I'll save unless I'm on a really good buck, I'm just shooting anything that comes in play. Because we're allowed, 6 does or whatever. I'll fill all the tags. I got no problem. If I hunt Delaware, same thing. Like, I'm just shooting those. Sorry.
Right.
I'm just shooting because it takes that expectations. You need to kill a big buck.
Yeah.
No, I'm a hunter first.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I kind of got away from that. Like, I need to shoot horns. Like, I need to shoot deer because the horns will come.
Right.
When they come, it's like, but me waiting, it's like, and then it comes like, man, I haven't shot a deer in like 2 years. So it's like, you make this like, but I got into, I got into like a good mindset. Like my goal is I'm a deer hunter.
Yeah.
The horns will come, you know.
It's funny how that works.
Fill the freezer, you know, a couple freezer queens.
Yeah.
Get that, you know, weight off your shoulders. You know, I'm good. And then mid-October, that's when I dial down in and do my thing.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how when you just decide to hunt deer, how like your fortunes or things just kind of turn around, if you will. You know, I've talked to Tony Peterson about that at length at different times. And I think when I've had a pretty good run the past couple of years of like getting on good deer and stuff like that. And I think truthfully it's been because I was just looking for deer. I didn't have anything in mind that I was particularly kind of searching for or looking for. I was just looking to have a good time, you know, and whatever got me excited is what was going to get me excited. And that was kind of not the sole reason, but one of the reasons for picking up the longbow was to kind of almost force myself into that. Yeah. You know, because the 30-yard shot doesn't exist for me anymore. You know, maybe 25. Yeah. That's about, and that's got to be pretty clean with like no wind. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No arrows, no sticks, limbs hanging down on the arc of the arrow.
I got to have like 10-foot clearance, like a swath of 10 foot, like up and down, you know, to get there because I'm going to be dropping bombs. But that was part of it, was just to kind of remove that whole aspect of it, because what am I going to do is sit around and say there's for example, for this year, the deer that I was chasing, am I going to spend a whole season sitting around thinking that I'm going to wait until I get that deer within 15 yards, which, you know, obviously didn't happen, but like let's just play it out and say that I don't know for sure. I'm sitting and it's mid-September and I'm getting ready for the season to start in that area. Am I going to sit around and wait and think that I'm going to get that deer within 15 yards, or going out with my longbow, am I just going to shoot the first buck that gets me excited, that gets within my kill radius with a longbow? Yeah. I'm going to shoot the deer that comes within range with my longbow, and I'm probably not going to pass it or wait for the next deer.
You got to start chalking that. It's like my experience with it. I need to kill, like especially after the first one. You know, like first 4 deer were clean misses. I was like, this is a lot harder than I thought. Like this isn't going to be like,
well, not
this
just the mechanics of it, but keeping your shit together. Because like it's one thing to learn how, like for years, even if you get a little bit of that adrenaline dump, you've shot that same way for so many years and had that same adrenaline dump, and you felt it so many times before that you kind of learn how to manage it. Yeah. You know, it's just like anything else. If you're an athlete and you've played in, you know, Tom Brady, great example. Guy's played in a ton of Super Bowls. Yeah. I'm sure he has an adrenaline dump before a Super Bowl, before his last one, but I bet you he managed it a lot differently and better in the last one than he did his first one. Yeah. It's that experience, right?
And that's with you. Like I tell people, like anybody gets in like adult onset hunters or even kids, you know, when like I worked with a lot of kids and like their dad would be like, oh, this is now like everybody's got, look at this buck we're hunting. I'm like, and I'll tell them like, dude, just shoot anything you can. Yeah. Anything and everything. Don't wait for horns. Just kill. That's your job. You need to learn. You're going to make mistakes. Just start shooting, you know, with your longbows. Like, just kill. Just get some notches on the belt. You know, it might not be the buck you're looking, but you accomplished the goal. You killed a deer with a longbow. Yep. Yeah. And that was my mindset going in. I'm like, and I flat out told Tony, I was like, any deer that gets in range, just get it. I don't care if it's a fawn. I don't care if it's a you know, because we got 3 on one
dude
side.
in a deer costume.
Yeah,
because I get it.
Yeah, that's right. And it was it. Any deer that was in range, you know, I slung arrows at it. Yeah. So it's like, you know, and look, you talked about that 30-yard mark earlier. Like, I had 3 popes at like 28 yards this year. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's like.
When's the last time that happened?
Yeah, precisely. It's like, but there again, it's like, I was just hunting fresh sign, you know. It was like,
that's exactly what I was just going to say.
One was like, actually 4, because the one I went out, like I went up to Salt Marsh, place I hunt 25 years ago, and they had beans. I literally just climbed up somebody's ladder stand. It was like, oh, there's a buck. So I went in after that buck, and I seen him a couple more times, and I had him at like 18 yards, but it was brush, you know, and then I had him like 28 and I let him walk. You know, it was like 130 inch 9-pointer. And it was like, man, that was fucking cool. You know, it's like, great. I hunted 3 days in a row, but it's like, I don't usually have that ability, but I'm like, I seen that deer one spot, and then 3 days later, you know, a mile away, I was on him again.
Right.
And it was like, okay, it felt good. You know, it's like, I beat him. You know, it's like, that's 30 yards from my wheelhouse. So it's like, I had 4 Pope Young caliber deer in range. Yeah. And I couldn't tell you the last time I had that. And that was all before November 7th. Yeah. I stopped hunting, I think, November 9th, I think, was the last time. November 9th or 10th, I stopped hunting. Yeah. You know? And so I was like, and I had 13 sits. And there might be 17 sits with a couple 2-dayers, but usually just half a day. Yeah. I was like done going home. You know, it was like, you know, just, I was in it, but it was like, I got to go do stuff, or like on my wrist. Because I still had the brace on. Like all I had was fingertips. It was like, it was cold. It sucked. Yeah. You know, I didn't really go out too many cold mornings. It was like, I couldn't put a glove on the sand because it had a cast on it. So it was like it was just freeze. So
Captain Knife Hand over here. Do you think, you know, from the experience that you had this year, will you willingly take the same approach next year, knowing that how much fun you had this year and how often you kind of found yourself in deer consistently?
I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Because I go back to work, I'm not going to have vacation.
Right.
Like, I haven't worked in a really long time. So it's like, when I go back, I got no vacation time, no days off. So it's like, I'll be a weekend warrior.
Right.
So it's like, you know.
Better just be hunting hot sign, trying to find the deer wherever the deer are at, whatever deer happen to be there.
I'll probably use my cameras more because I'll be on the weekends again. I hunted like midweek this year, you know. Right. So maybe that's why, you know, I seen the deer I seen. I don't know, you know. Right. I probably would see them hunting the weekends, you know. I was just on them because I was just enjoying being out there. It wasn't like I need to get to this tree. It was like if I was late, I just still hunted in super slow. You know, and sat my bucket on the ground, you know. I sat my stool next to a tree in a bush and was like, there we go. You know, it's like I would just sit there. Yep. You know, it's like, and then I think maybe like ground hunting was like the reason maybe I'll see deer, because there's a few times I'm sitting like, I need to be somewhere else. I felt like Johnny Stewart. He's getting set up, you're like, this ain't it. And you go somewhere else and you're like, you see deer. Like that mobility aspect comes into play. And it was like, wow, you know, it's like the wind shifting. It's so much easier when you're ground, you just walk away. It's like, there's no like unpacking anything. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna go over there now. So it's like, I'm just gonna go over there. It was like, so that was cool, you know. But the things I learned, you know, because one of the best seasons I've ever had, you know, many years ago was all ground kills. You know, I hunted for like 2 years strictly from the ground, and that was like best, you know, same type of experience. Like I was on big deer all the time because the ability to shift, because you didn't have anything. I'm not 20 feet in the air. It's like, I'm seeing deer over there. I'm like, well, I'll go over there.
Right.
It's like turkey. You know, I almost felt like a turkey hunter. It's like, you know, you call a little bit, this ain't it. You go somewhere else and call. It's like you're almost like making things happen.
Yeah. And that's what I love about, you know, and I've talked about it a bunch on here, but the hunting the plains and open country in general is just that aspect of it where if you're not in the game, give it 2 minutes, you could be.
Yep.
You know, and that's what I really like about hunting from the ground is just I feel like I'm more engaged and more in it. And I still love like an elevated setup. I still love getting into my saddle, especially in certain spots where, you know, if the spot is really kind of dialed in, you know. But what I've found more and more is that if I don't have a spot really dialed in, I almost like to sit on the ground and just kind of wait and see what happens and see if I see some deer. Because truthfully, you know, if I'm in a tree setup and I see a deer versus being on the ground, if I see it, I'm likely going to be able to kill it on the ground. You know what I'm saying? There's sometimes you see deer when you're in a tree and you can't kill it, you know? But if I can see them and like they're moving away from me and maybe they're through brush and then I can go, okay, I just saw 2 does go over there. There must be a reason why they keep hitting this same corner of this thicket. I'm going to move over and set up 15, 20 yards off the edge of that thicket or off that corner because there's clearly a reason why deer want to be there. Right. And you make that move.
I think too, like, you know, this year was, like I said, because I hunted spots I literally hunted in high school, and it was like, and the things I learned in high school, like just getting close to deer, and like I suggest that to anybody. If you can go hunt where you hunted 30 years ago, and see what the deer are doing, and maybe employ those tactics, like for me, it was so cool because I was literally hunting the same spots, almost the same exact way, same spots. I knew the spots, and I'm a lot better deer hunter now. So it's like maybe that's why I was having the success I was, because like these are really good areas. Most people don't know how to hunt them. So it's like I'm going there, I'm like no expectations. I'm like I'm gonna hunt.
Well, you knew the area well. Like you spent a lot of time learning the area.
Yeah.
Right.
Making mistakes. It's like now the mistakes won't be made because I'm not going to put myself in that. I know the thermal pool at certain spots are off in the evening. I'm not even going to bother going there in the evening because it's just a waste. Right. You're going to get busted 90% of the time. So I was like, this is morning. And I would see bucks, see deer. And it's there's some mornings, like I was hunting the ground. Man, I shit you not, like 8 yards away. It was like a herd of does come by, and like I'm just old school, like just leaning against the tree on a bucket, like, yep. Mm-hmm. And like they would stop, move, but it's like I'm a lot older now, so it's like I know how to sit and cover better. Like I'm not like, okay, I'm staying in the shadows a little bit. Like I could have swore like these deer were going to like pick me off every time, and nope, they just look, and maybe it's the camo, like I don't know, maybe I'm just better at hiding, not moving, but it's like I could have killed like some of them's like, because I had to shoot with the right hand, so it's like I'm setting up for this, and it's like all those deer over here. So it's like those deer on the left side. It's like I can't do anything because I can't move my body. So it's like I'm holding my bow, and I'm just like a little corner of my eye, and it's like there's just like a herd of does coming through at like 8 yards. I'm like, they're going to blow any second. I'm just waiting for them to blow because it's going to scare the crap out of me. But they never did, and it's like, man, that was awesome. It's like I'm in it, man. Like those little things there. It's like that's a win.
Yeah, it's funny how whenever you just change things up for yourself and maybe change the expectations, you view your experiences as just a little bit differently.
I remember in Bow Hunter, it might be Bow Hunter magazine years ago, a guy wrote an article about that, expectations. Big buck hunter, and he's like had a few rough years. So he went out of state hunts. It was a really good article. Like I thought about that article quite a bit this year. He's like, just lower the expectations. Just go there and kill something. It doesn't need to be the biggest buck. It's like if you're out of state, you shoot a buck. It's okay. Like you bought a tag, it's legal. Just have some fun with it. You don't always have to shoot the biggest. Always do. You don't always have to eat tag soup. Like that was my biggest thing. I lost 3 deer the year before. All non-fatal hits. So it was like. And the year before, I was at full draw way too many times, no arrows loose. So I'm like, I need to kill. Like I was like, I'm due. So I was like,
which is crazy for you to be in that mode whenever you're shooting with a mouth tab now.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Where, because you're right, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. I had 2 rough years, so it's like I need to just
where it's like your confidence kind of shook anyway. You know what I mean? Where it's hard. It's now actually you say that, I do remember us talking about that, not on the podcast, but just offline.
Yeah.
And that's a rough way to try to get your confidence back. It's like, not only is my confidence shit right now and killing anything, but I'm going to now try to build my confidence by shooting with a mouth tab.
Yeah, left-handed bow. And, it was like, but those moments, like over the season, was like, okay, I need to bring this same energy. Mm-hmm. Like I want to shoot a big buck. It was like, that's the ultimate goal. It's like, but I'm not going to shoot does anymore in September. Right. Before it was like, we got to shoot a doe to get a buck tag anyway. So I try to shoot does, but it's like, I always struggle because I think I'm so focused on a buck. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's hard for me to shoot. Like, I want to shoot bucks. It was like, to get in like doe mode. And like now it's like, it's September. It's like, I'm going to just be slinging carbon left and right, and then when prime time comes, like I'm ready.
Yeah.
Confidence is there. Like, might get jitters. I might get jitters shooting a bow, normally now, so with a deer with a normal setup. So it's like, all right, well, I'll use September as a learning curve,
Right, yeah.
And same thing, get in range, I'm shooting it.
Yeah.
Just to get 1 or 2 down, and then all that weight's off your shoulders. It's like, okay, fine, I can breathe. It's like, And now I know, like, my daughter loves loins and chops, all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, like,
fill the freezer.
That's it. I got 2 giant freezers, and that way, come November, if I don't kill a buck, at least I have meat. So the season was a success.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of my plan for this year. And even so much so that I was talking to him too, our buddy Aaron Hepler. Yeah. There's because I'm going to travel again this year, go out of state. And, I'm committing to the longbow this year, all in. And I really want to draw blood at least once, if not a couple times with it before I head out of state.
Yeah.
And so, our season.
Are you bringing the rifle with you in Kansas?
The rifle?
Your compound.
Oh, no.
As a backup? No?
No. I'm actually, I think, just going to leave it at home. That way I'm not tempted to. Because the only way, if I did, the only way I would take it out would be if there was like a day where the wind was just like ripping to where it just would make. It's either one of those things where I either take the compound or I probably shouldn't even hunt today. I mean, I could go out in glass, but I'm probably not going to be able to ever get an arrow off unless the deer's from me to you.
Yeah.
It's like, which is a possibility, but I'm not Jared Scheffler. So it's like the chances of me getting that close, not real good, But even, my plan is to try to sling as many as I can and fill as many tags as I can in September, to the point that Aaron has a farm that is close to his house that has a ton of does, and he has permission on that piece. And he was like, if you want to come out here, they've got ag and stuff like that. So they just pile into a certain part of the field. Like, if you just want to come out here and set up on the ground and try to kill a couple does just to kind of
whet your appetite.
Wet my whistle. He was like, come out. And I was like, dude, I will take you up on that. But I was like, I just need to get blood on the arrow.
Yeah.
It was like that. I was like, if I do that at least once or twice, I'll feel good about headed on a trip and go, you know what? I know I can shoot and kill something. Now, whether or not I can keep my stuff together, if a decent buck comes in or not with it at that close range with this bow, remains to be seen. But at least it won't be, the virgin lethal arrow being released in that moment, and that's kind of that's the plan.
Like I said, I missed 4 deer,
and I know it's going to happen with this.
It was like, because it's all new, and like, you can just, my backyard, I was like, I'm good, but the heat of the moment, it was like, I just fell apart first. I mean, the first one was just awful. It was like, I wasn't even like mad. It was like, oh, that sucked.
Wow,
I was like,
that was so bad.
I was like, I don't know if I can tell anybody about this. I was literally going to be like, this never happened. And I was like, because I'm like, yeah, this never happened. But I'm like, it happened. This is.
It is what it is.
Yep.
I'm going to have plenty of those stories with that bow. I guarantee you. Because
I think you need those stories.
You do.
Like, if you went out first arrow, and you like heart shot a deer at like 18 yards. That's a hard act to follow up on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you need to maybe, you don't want to miss or wound the deer, but like, you need to
having a clean miss or two isn't the worst thing ever.
Gives you things to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
And it teaches you that this isn't easy.
Yeah.
And that if you want to be consistently lethal with something like that, or with a mouth tab or whatever, like you said, you got to shoot every day.
Yep.
You got to stay on top of it.
And one thing I know with the mouth tab, like, and I'm more of a subconscious type shooter. Like, I do the basics, and like, my brain takes over. The mouth tab, I had to be a conscious shooter, almost like what Joel Turner. Yeah,
I just literally had him on.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, grab here, hand here, like all these things. I had all these cues to make the shot happen, which, was tough because my brain is very active. Like, I don't need encouragement in certain areas, because it's like, oh, I'm taking over, and it's like, I'm all over the place, So
right.
It's like, but I needed that because it was so different from what I'm used to, and I'm going to try to apply some of those techniques now, because I got to relearn how to shoot a bow normally. So it's like, okay, I'm going to need to, I got to hold the bow a certain way so it don't hurt my wrist. I need to draw anchor. Like, I'll probably use some of those cues I used before, and then, maybe even with the shooting, because it was like, with the mouth tab, it was like, I was so, I had to close the right eye, and it was like, in my left eye with glasses and all this stuff, it's like, too far up, I'm in the trifocal. I can't see it. So it's like those times I pull back, I'm like, I can't see nothing because it's like I got it. The mouth having the wrong spot. It's like,
Dude, you should have a camera guy. I kind of wanted to see all this nonsense.
But it was like those things was like little things that I think a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
They don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I've always struggled with having a brain that's very active in the moment when it comes to anything. Snowboarding, I could not say, okay, arms here, spin here. I would just get up every time.
Yeah.
Because it's overthinking, overtrying. It's like even welding at work. Like if I sit there and say, okay, whip it, or 1, 2, 1, 2, man, I'm all over the place. Because it's like, brain's like, oh, 1, 2, 1, 2 would live 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then it's like,
all of a sudden I'm counting them at 100.
Yeah. So it's
I just welded myself into a.
Yeah. So it's like subconsciously, I'm very good with my brain. I trust my brain because I train it. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
if you were able to build a process though and kind of talk yourself through it and got consistent with shooting a mouth tab, which is extremely hard to shoot. Imagine taking that same process and applying it to something that you're kind of already adept at doing, and how much more it could fine tune you.
Yes. So I'm
because what you did was you controlled your brain. Is what you did.
Yeah.
It was because I'm the same way to a degree, right? Yeah. And I just talked about this with Joel last week whenever he was on. The first time I ever consciously walked through step by step of a shot was the deer I shot in the plains. Yeah. Only time. Every other deer I ever shot, actually, no, it was the 2 deer I shot that year because it was the one that I shot, the buck I shot in PA that year and the one in the plains. But it was the only 2 times I ever shot a deer that I could remember everything. Yeah. And then so he asked me to walk him through it. And so I walked him through the one in the plains. I kind of talked through the shot. And he said, I don't remember exactly how he phrased it. He's like, but do you know why you remember all of it? And I was basically like, no. I know I remember all the details, but I don't know why. And what he basically said was that you talk to yourself through every scenario. And part of his methodology is that when you're thinking, you're still letting your brain kind of float. When you're saying the words to yourself, that is directing your attention at the thing you're trying to do. And he said, because you watched the deer come in, it's like, okay, here's where I'm going to have to draw. Like you walked yourself through every sequence of the shot, and which is why you remembered all of it, as opposed to just ripping it back and letting it go. And so I actually started doing that with the longbow because he gave me some pointers on that as well. It's very similar. Yeah. It's just slightly different. And so as soon as we did that podcast together, I went outside and started using it, and it makes a difference. Yeah. Because my biggest thing with shooting that is if I don't talk myself through it, at least the release, I start to drift. And what I told him was I noticed this, and you probably saw it today while I was out shooting. If I'm not intent, I drift to the left a lot.
That's same with me. I would shoot high left. Yeah. Like
I can always tell when I don't talk myself through the release, because if I talk myself through the release, I might miss high or low. Yeah. But I'm not so much concerned with high or low because my brain eventually, as I continue to shoot and get more experience with a traditional bow, my brain will make that compensation. Yeah. It'll do that for me, And I don't know what the technical term of it is, but it's like throwing a baseball. Yeah. It's like eventually if I do it often enough, my brain will just know that that's 20 yards and that's where that
how much energy
ball
you
needs
need
to
throw.
Yeah. But what I don't want is to have variation right and left. You know what I mean? And usually I don't have variation right. I usually always have variation left. And it's always when I don't talk myself through the shot. That's whenever it's like, cool, sure? I'm right on the money for distance. My brain did the calculation, but I didn't talk myself through. So my eyes will actually, I caught myself doing it. My eyes will actually start floating to the left unless I'm looking at the thing I'm trying to hit and saying, okay, because what I do is once I get drawn, I basically just start saying, expand, 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 expand. And that's not, I'm not pulling through a shot like you do with a compound, but I'm just trying to pinch my shoulders together, making sure everything's tight, because the difference with the compound and the traditional bow is that I have to physically let the bow go. So I can't surprise myself with the release. I have to let it go, where it's like if you're using a mechanical release, obviously on a compound, it's like you can surprise yourself with the shot because you're just putting back tension and it pops, But I have to physically open my fingers. And so I have to say, expand, 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 because I don't even think about it, and I just let it go, and I'm not kind of jerking my fingers or letting one off late
Yeah.
or whatever. And, so it's just, and it's been super helpful. It's actually tightened and made me, it's made my release way more consistent,
Clean.
which I know in the long run is going to make my groupings and my shots more consistent. It might not be there right now, but my release is way more consistent.
Yeah. And I know when I shot recurve, many years ago, and I can, when I, like how you say expand, my fingers just give up. I'll just pull till they give up. There's nothing left. And it's almost like it's back tension. Like, I mean, cause when I shot recurve, like my hand would literally end up on my shoulder every time. Boom. Cause it's like, I don't even think about releasing. I just go until the fingers just have enough. Fingers just give up. Like, that's all I got.
That's all we got, dude. We're out.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know if I just sort of like relax my hand, but it's like, when I was shooting recurve, when I was working at the bow shop, so I was shooting a lot, like I had the very similar release. The release would literally hinge. It would end up on my shoulder. Recurve, end up on my shoulder. So it was like, I have the good mechanics. I could probably, maybe one day pick up one of those things and I'd probably do well. Just because I have years of understanding, back tension methods, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got yourself a new bow too, right?
Yeah.
So you've been shooting, or at least working
Trying.
on it. Yeah.
After a couple shots, the wrist is like, we're done now.
We're good.
We're taking a break. But yeah, bought a Matthews.
That's unlike when you texted me that, I was like, what? I was like, get out of here.
I did not
dude.
want to, and I test fired a lot of bows.
What all did you shoot?
First one was a Matthews because I know they have the grip, interchangeable grips, because I can't bend my wrist back.
Right.
So I need a medium high wrist grip. So I was like, I know Matthews, everybody's got grips for them. So I went to the local bow shop and it was their Lift X. It was one of the ones, and I shot it, and they put, I guess they call them the Bond grip, whatever this year, but it's their highest one. And I shot it, and I was like, God damn it! It was like, I just knew, I was like, I'm gonna buy this thing because it was like
Felt right just from the rip.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, but look at the price tag. I was like, I was like, what? I was like, and I'm like, and they got like the bridge lock stabilizer. I'm like, wait, so you're telling me people pay $250 for just one stabilizer? It's just, I was like, and you still got to buy like one for the back. And I'm like, and you need a special site to go to the riser. And I was like, yeah, maybe this is not it for me. I was like, because I didn't realize I was cheap. And so I went, I was like, I'm just cheap, So I'm like, all right. And I went and shot at Bowtech because they have the adjustable grips you can put out. And that was nice. The Solution LS. And it was really nice. I was like, but the Matthews was, in my opinion, it felt better for me. I shot at Darton, probably the best drawing bow.
Yep.
Absolutely.
A couple years ago when I did that video where I tested a bunch of bows.
That draw cycle was, and I haven't shot, so I'm like, I'm just shooting like 60, and they're sub 60. And dude was like, yeah, I think it's a 60. Whatever. I was like, all right. Like, I remember pulling it back. It was 67 pounds.
Wow.
I remember like pulling it back. It was like, not even to my face. Like, I was like pulling it back, and I was like, like I came in like out to my face, and like in the angle, I was like, how much is this? Because it felt really light. And it was like, 60, damn near 67 pounds. I'm like,
wow.
But the grip is just too flat. It don't work for your wrist don't wrist,
My wrist didn't kind of wrist anymore. Yeah.
But that was like, man, if they ever get like adjustable grip, that's like not somebody 3D printed. Nothing against people that print wrist, grips or anything, but I'm like, some grips are a lot better than others. And I was like, and then Harrisburg show, I shot the Expedition. They have the adjustable grip. I don't know. People think maybe the bow wasn't tuned, but I was like, for that amount of money, I was expecting a lot more.
Right.
I was like, that'd be a hard. I don't know if I could. I would never buy it personally.
Right.
The grip felt pretty good with all the way out, but maybe the bow wasn't tuned, whatever. But I'm like, I just, and like there was like a little spot because the grip kind of pivots. So it was almost like a small little pinch point. Like I could feel it in the webbing, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of money for that. Like,
yeah.
So like, that's out. I shot the Bowtech 34. Great bow. Proven, I think it's a proven 34. Mm-hmm. It just felt so heavy.
Really?
Like, it's a 4.5 pound bow, but it just felt like 4.5. Like very, I don't know. It was just a lot. Maybe because like I'm not super strong. Maybe I'm just weak or whatever.
Well,
but
yeah.
I'm like,
but I mean, that makes a difference, though. You know, it's like you gotta think that maybe not in the long run, but at least right now, that arm, wrist, forearm is not up to snuff.
No.
And so,
but like I said, when I shot
3.5 pounds versus 4.5 pounds is going to make a big difference.
You know, it's like, and then I shot the lift again at the Harrisburg show. I was like, it's just a better bow, like, you know, and I shot a few more, and I just kept going back to the Matthews, and
they're tanks, dude. Like I still have I think it's the VXR 28. I still have that one downstairs.
And like the switch weights, just unscrewing things, putting new ones on, because I end up, you know, this kid from New Jersey had one for sale, so I got it from him. Went to the store, they put draw length mods and because I don't know nothing about Matthews on that, so I took it there. It was like, oh, you need this one, 60 pounds, 28.5, you know. And I was like, he literally was like, like 5 minutes. I'm like, that's it. Like we went from an 80-pound bow to a 60-pound bow just by changing a module, and I'm like, yeah, this is like from a resale standpoint, it's phenomenal
for sure. Because the one I have downstairs that was I had my Hoyt, which I still have, and I still had my VXR 28, and I wanted to shoot my Hoyt if I could, and I was hopeful that by the time I left for the plains that I would be able to draw like my full bow, that my shoulder would be better in time, and it was. But I had my Matthews, and I just changed out the mods to drop it down to so I could drop it down to like 49 pounds or 47 pounds or something like that, to where it's like if I couldn't pull the Hoyt back, I could take this one at least, you know, and shoot it. And it was just swapping out the mods and turning.
It was crazy. It was like, and it's just, and shooting it in the yard, I'm like, I mean, Matthews are a little top heavy for me. Like it does.
They are,
you know, like, so I'll have to figure out like a stabilizer setup for that, because that's not my speed. Like when a shot breaks, I want the bow just to stay level for me, but just a personal preference. Like not a dig on the bow. Like the bow is fantastic, you know. I just need to find the right stabilizer setup.
Right.
You know, I got like a bee stinger counter slide on it. I don't know if that's going to serve a purpose. You know?
Right.
But
I still like my Matthews. That was still like that VXR 28 was like a bow that every now and then I pull it out and still shoot it once in a while, just because it was one of those bows that, dude, I could pick that thing up cold and not have shot for weeks or even months, and I could pick that thing up and drive tacks with it. Yeah. I don't know why. That thing always just shot like almost like it was shooting for me. It felt that easy. Yeah. You know. I don't know why, but
yeah, I mean, so I sold a bunch of stuff.
And it never goes out of tune. Like that thing, I could drop that thing out of trees. It didn't matter. That thing, I always shoot well.
I sold a bunch of stuff so I can get that bow. You know, sold 2 bows. I had that new breed. I can't shoot that anymore. I had my old Carbon Icon, which was my buddy ended up buying that for him and his son. You know, I gave him full setup, and it was like super cheap. You know, I was like, I got enough money for this bow, and I'm like, but it's like, I mean, I paid a lot of money used. I ended up selling, you know, the quiver. I like my tight spot, so I was like, I don't need the quiver, but I sold that for, you know, $100 on Archery Talk.
Right.
You know, it's like sold the stabilizer setup. You know, so I didn't pay. You know, I recouped some of my losses. Sent the rest back to get rebuilt.
Right.
Sent the Spot Hawk sight back to get rebuilt. So I'm like, pretty much got a brand new bow. You know.
Mm-hmm. Feeling pretty good now.
Yeah. So wish I could just shoot more. Like I shot, I don't know, maybe 6 times today, maybe 8 arrows, and it was like the hand, wrists. It was like it was enough. You know, forearm. It was like everything. I'm like, yeah, that's enough of that.
It'll just take time. That'll come back.
Yeah.
By hunting season, like you'll be, you know.
The drawing part was surprisingly, probably because I've been working on my shoulders, like in rehab, like doing all this band stuff for the last forever now. It seems like the past year, like drawing back all these bows was a lot easier than I thought. I was like, man, I'm gonna be so weak, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like I could probably pull back 70 pounds if I wanted to. Not that I would, you know, like
Right.
that Matthews is fast.
Yeah.
You know, like I got arrows coming, and I think there were like 470 grains total weight as per the, you know, what's it, Archer's Advantage. I should be like 270 feet per second, which is, for me, is like, that's my wheelhouse. I
Right.
get good broadhead flight at that speed. So I'm like 60 pounds, you know, 475 grain arrow. I'm like, I'm good with that, you know?
Yeah. Kill a lot of deer with that.
Yeah. You know, so it's cool, you know, it's just, it's a lot to relearn.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I think I want to try to incorporate some of that mental stuff, you know, with it.
Yeah.
And because it did help out, you know.
Well, relearning something or learning something new, like from what you went through this year, is a really easy way to keep yourself engaged or re-engage yourself. Like I'm kind of finding that with the longbow, because before, you know, I like to tinker with gear, but my bow was not ever something I tinkered with necessarily, because I honestly didn't trust myself. I don't have a press here or anything like that, and I never really learned how to tune my bow. And I always had someone who I knew, like you or Wilson or my buddy AJ, who used to have a shop. Like I would just take my bow to one of you guys. I trusted you guys to, you know, and get it shooting well and cool. And then Chad and those guys had arrows, and so I would just tell them what I needed, and they would send me arrows, and they flew well. And so I just shot the bow, you know. I would set my sight tape and shoot the bow. That was essentially what I did. And now with, you know, the new bow, I'm having to, you know, build a zero arrow. Spent, you know, and I'm not real good at it yet. So it took me all day Saturday to do it, you know, where Todd probably do it in an hour, you know, and get it and knock it out. It took me hours to do. Partially because, you know, I'm still new at it, but also new enough at shooting a traditional bow where I also don't trust myself on my release and was my anchor right, though, you know, and just all the things that have to go into making a zero. It's like when you're tuning a bow, you can tune the bow for me, but it's better if I'm there to shoot it, because you're not going to hold it and shoot it the same way I shoot it, you know? And so it needs to work for me, you know?
That's, when people send their bows into tuners, and it's like, I never understood that. Because it's like, oh, well, they use a machine to tune it.
But you're not a machine.
You're not a machine. It's like you got your hand's different than his. Because I've tuned so many Matthews and elites, you know, way back when, like elite shimming the cams. Like I was shimming cams before.
Cam shimming was cool.
Yeah, like so it's like I remember guys like, I can't get this to tune. I'm like, you're just like, you got frying pan hands, man. It's like your hand's too big for this bow. Like, like maybe a different bow. Well, I like this bow. It's like, you're not going to shoot this bow well. So it's like, how can I get this guy shooting? It's like full draw. I'm looking at the cams. It's like, well, if I take that cam and like slide over this way, like maybe straighten out. And it's like, I was doing that 20 years ago, you know? So it was like, all right. And just kind of went with that. And it was like, same with the Matthews. They came out with the top hats. Kids coming over. It was like, I can't get to shoot. I'm watching them, and I'm like, I shoot it, and it's like bullet holes. And I'm like, I don't shoot. Good for me, you know? It's like, and they grab, it's like, look, and it's like this hard right tear. And you're like, dude, like, it's like
shoot it. It's like canted over like a longbow.
Like, I don't know what that is. Like, we can shit it over, and like, I can tune it for them, and then I shoot it, and I have a hard left tear after I reshim it, but it shoots good for him, you know? So it's like.
That's what AJ used to always tell me, because I would drop it off, you know, to him, and he would tune my bow, make sure I was all set up. And he would basically say, hey, I can get it close without you here, you know, where the bow's going to shoot straight. It's timed, you know, you're good to go. He's like, I really need you to shoot a couple arrows to fine tune and tweak it to make sure it's going to shoot for you. Now, the funny thing was is he would set it up, I would go shoot, and it would be fine. So we must grip the bow similarly or close enough, you know, that it didn't make a big difference.
I mean, grit weaving with the mouth tab, I found myself torquing a lot,
because probably flinching a lot too.
Because it's like I was getting too much thumb pressure. I was like almost like pushing. Sometimes like like pushing so hard because you're pushing out with your hand. So it's like sometimes I guess my thumb would curl over and I get a lot of thumb pressure inside the grip, and it's like the bow takes off and like when it releases, I'm like, how was that? And I was like, and it's like
Arrow's done their fishtailing.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't understand. Like it was so like, and I couldn't get that thing to paper tune for shit. Like 5 yards, I'm like, I want to just go old school, and literally I was like, I'm just gonna start tuning at 10 yards. Mm-hmm. And if hard foam, I bought like a broadhead target from Big Shots. It's a big like wedge shaped target. I'm like, I'm gonna do just how the arrow's sitting in. It's a brand new target. Whatever the arrow, like a bear chef's doing in a target, I'm tuning for that. And that's what I did. And it was like, and it had
kind of how I'm tuning mine.
Yeah,
like how I'm tuning the longbow, where it's like I'm just looking at like if I'm left, I need a tighter spine. Yeah. So I gotta cut the arrow down a little bit to stiffen it up a little bit to try to straighten it out.
And I had the bow I bought had 2 yokes on it, individual, so they weren't slaved together. So I'm like, I haven't messed with one of these things since like circa '93, one of the old high country. So I'm like, this is a horrible system. And I'm like, it's a basic system, but it's like I haven't messed with it so long. I'm like, all right, I'll twist this yoke up, and then it's like, was that 2 twists on this one? It's like 1, and it's like brand new strings on it. I'm like, and it just turned into shit. The timing's off, and it's like, Serenity now. Serenity now is like, this is so like, and like,
all I want to do is shoot.
And and then like Annette would come down there, and ask me questions, and it's like, I'm already like all jacked up, and then Monica was like, I don't know why you get angry. And it's like,
it shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah, I was like, she goes, you've shot bows your whole life, and this should be easy. And it's like, one would think, dear, yes, one would think, and it's like,
one would think.
Can I just get like 10 minutes alone? Like, let's just give me like 10 minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah, but it's but so going back to what I was saying is that now I'm a little bit more engaged in my stuff, which I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think you need
the more engaged you are with your gear and how your bow.
You're more invested. In. I know for me, like when I was competing and shooting a lot, I was invested in it, and maybe that was my fault these last couple of years. Like, wife, kids, and family stuff. So it's like you take a step back from the things that made
kept
me
you dialed in.
Yeah, so it's like maybe that's why I had the success I had last year. Like I started and had to relearn everything. So it was like I was fully immersed in it because it took me 3 months to be able to shoot decent enough groups want to go out. So it was like it was a whole like before process. It was like 2 weeks for a season I pulled the bow. Like I didn't really shoot 3D the last couple of years. Like I was shooting field and stuff like that. So it was like maybe I need to get back into this longer process to make me more present in the moment because I did all this work here. I better be good. Like I better pay attention out there.
That's just it, right? Because just making a 0 arrow for example, when I finally got that arrow to tune, and I shot it today to show you because I wanted a second opinion. Really, I wanted you to watch the flight and be like, does it look good when it's going into the target, or am I just crazy? Because I'm like, it looks like it's flying straight. And I shot it, and you were like, that's the best arrow out of the whole group that you shot. And that's the only one that I've tuned for the bow, so it makes sense. But because of that, now I'm really invested in how well the arrow shoots and how well I shoot because I've made that arrow. I want to shoot that arrow well because that is a reflection of the work that I've done. Right. And it just it's a trickle down thing, where it's like, okay, now when I shoot an animal, it's going to be an animal that I've shot with the arrow that I built, that I tuned for this bow, that I've taught myself how to shoot, with some help from Todd, of course.
Shout out to Todd.
UP. So it just means a little more. I want to, it's easy. So I'm trying to not go down the rabbit hole though either, because I have a bad habit of doing that to where it's like I was looking at like feather burners the other night and shit like that. Where
like check out my shop down here.
Yeah, exactly, man. I would be like down there sanding up a bow, like making my own bow next, because that's how I get. Where I'm like, what?
Look at this strip of Osage. I want to build a bow next week.
Exactly. That's exactly where I will go too, because that's how I operate. Because I was literally, I was like, all right, I got to fletch this thing with something. I'm not sure what I'm going to use. I kind of want to use feathers, this, that, the other. And I was talking to Steve from Bushman who built the bow, and he recommended, I think it was 2.5 inch. I think he was recommending for my vanes, if I'm not, or for my fletchings, if I'm not mistaken.
No, longer than that. Your fletching's longer than 2.5.
Well, yeah, the ones I have on there now, those are just what came with the vintage Black Eagles that I was using. But he was suggesting like a certain dimension, like a certain size for me. And I don't know if that's because like that's what he's found guys that shoot his bows find to be the most effective, most accurate, or whatever the case is.
Could be like how they come off that
the riser
string.
possibly. Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, well, maybe I should just make my own. And so then I'm like looking for like a burner, like to do it. And they don't make it anymore. There's like one called the Loves something or other. And so I found one to like use, and I was like, oh, it's like $150 or $175. Like I could get that. And then I'm talking to Wilson, and Wilson kills turkeys like they're going out of style.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I'll send you like 10 pounds of turkey feathers. He's like, you have feathers for like the next 20 years. So now I'm like, great. So I can get a feather burner, like
you're $800 in. You could have just bought fletchings for $50.
$50, yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna have the same set of arrows for like the next 5 years. It's like, and so I've talked myself off that ledge. But that's the bad part of this, is that I will go down that rabbit hole, and it doesn't help whenever you have buddies like. So I was literally, because now this thing is so personal. It feels like, it's a weird feeling. Like I didn't think, I loved shooting my compounds and stuff. But I almost feel like that bow was made for me, and that's my bow. There's not another one like it. My Hoyt.
Full Metal Jacket style.
Yeah. My Hoyt, it's my bow, but I mean, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people have that same bow, just different draw weight, different, draw length, right? But that one specifically.
That's a true custom, unlike influencers who do custom builds with off-the-shelf parts.
Right. Yeah. Those.
It was a custom build I did. Oh, all you did was change strings. That's not custom.
Yeah, not custom. And so, like, I don't know. It's weird. It's a little bit more like personal. Like it feels like an extension of me. And like when I talk to guys who have done this a lot longer than I have, like a Todd or like a Jared Scheffler or whatever, those dudes, like their bow becomes kind of like an extension of them, or part of them to a degree. And so it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole. So everything I do with that, I want it to be exactly what I want. Like I was willing to give up certain things, like, all right, these aren't necessarily the broadheads I want to shoot with my compound, but like they work and it's fine, whatever. These might not be the arrows or whatever it is, right? But it gets the job done. And so I didn't pay much attention. But this one, like everything from like the quiver I'm going to use and stuff like that, I'm very specific about the application of it, which is fun, but it also is frustrating because like, someone like me who obsesses over things, it's really easy for me to get obsessed and go to the bad place.
I think sometimes, at least for me, shooting and building arrows and bows, like rebuilding a bow and to fit my specs, and my draw length, my draw weight. That's one thing I will miss on like the elites or new breeds, the draw stops. Like I like a certain poundage. Mm-hmm. The Matthews, I'm never going to be able to get that holding weight because the next size up or next size down with the mods, it makes the cam so jumpy. Mm. So it's like, that's the only thing I will miss on the, because, 14 pounds holding weight, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. But I shot 14 pounds extremely well. 12 to 14 was like a good, a bow that's 85% let off, 60 pounds. I was like, there's not a lot of weight in the back end. It's like soft.
And it's funny how that makes a difference, because you and I were talking about this before we even started recording, which was, I was just saying, the bow that I had made versus the one that Todd gave me to kind of practice with this past year. I shoot the one I had made for me better and more consistently. Not surprising, but it's a heavier poundage bow. And you asked me, do you think that you shoot that one better because you have more resistance and you're having to hold more weight? And my response was, I think so. Because it was a lot easier for me to overdraw
Yep.
the other bow because it was so light. You
And
know?
even like just when it's light, your arms muscles start taking effect where it's
Instead of like skeletal and structural.
like you want your heavier poundage, you engage your back muscles versus your arms. So like you're going to be a lot better, more consistent.
A lot cleaner.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's exactly what was happening.
Yep.
It's like just made me more consistent because and I even noticed that whenever I was only shooting a compound, like I needed to have a stiff back. I couldn't have something that was spongy.
Yeah.
Like I had to feel like I was
against something.
Yeah. And I don't want to say wrestling. It's the bad way to put it because it wasn't like it was that big of a struggle, but I needed to feel like it was there.
Yeah.
That was why I never liked the elites because I almost felt like I had to push the string forward.
That's where I would put heat shrink tubing on all the draw stops to make them bigger. So I can get that. Yeah, I can get that what I wanted.
Right.
Draw length plus the poundage. Like sometimes it wasn't as a lot. I've had draw stops made before. And to get that feel that I want, and I will miss that. With the Matthews, it won't be because I'll get resistance pulling into the cables. But it won't be like like a limb stop bow. It's like you're literally stopping, and then it's like it's a certain poundage, and then you're pulling through it. So it's like I might be 15 pounds by the time the release goes off, like pulling because you're increasing the poundage, the weight, so to speak.
Yeah. So are you going to shoot a hinge?
I shot, add insult to injury through all this. My right hand is not functioning as well as it used to because for the past year, like my right hand's done everything. And it's like, I don't know if it's arthritis, it's just overuse, but it's like my right hand didn't get a break. So it's like, I might have to shoot a wrist rocket. But the good thing about that is Stan came out with a clicker on a wrist rocket. So you pull back and it'll click on the trigger. And I shot at the Harrisburg and I was like, this is nice. Because like that was my biggest fear. It's like I've had the Carters. You don't know when they're going off. So it's like I could still like I was never as consistent with a hinge or like a spike release. But that clicker, like you pull back and put your finger on it, put a little tension, it clicks, you just stop. And then you just pull through like once you're ready to go. So it's like it works like a clicker on a hinge and like a handheld, but a wrist rocket. So it kind of takes so I can give my fingers.
Take some of the stress off your hand. Yeah, nice. So what? So with all this change,
I had to sell my kidney for all this new stuff.
Nice. But you have been, in the meantime, like you were saying earlier, man, like, you've been able to get a lot of scouting done just in season. Or some days you didn't even take your bow, and then you've been out in the woods just a ton, like here in the off season, which I'm chomping at the bit to get out. I've yet to get out. It's still in the north. As of last weekend, I think still had like some ice on the roads, and, like access roads and stuff like that. By this weekend, it should be clear. So maybe this weekend coming. I always try to get out to that spot, particularly. I haven't even got out locally yet. I try to get out to that spot in the north, sometime in March if I can. Yeah. Usually every year it ends up being in April. That's usually the earliest I can get there by the time like the roads get cleaned up enough to where I could actually, get there without putting my truck in a ditch.
Get some chains.
Yeah, I could, but
that's like work.
Yeah, like, who wants to do that?
Get some studded tires. I ain't doing that.
Yeah, I ain't doing that. But yeah, so hopefully scouting will kick off here for me like the next week or two, and then I'll get at it. But I'm gonna have a limited time this year because doe patrol early, and then I'll basically in that area it starts in October, and then I'm gonna be out to the plains. So I don't know when I'm gonna leave for that yet.
You done 2 weeks? Or till you kill?
At least 2 weeks for right now. It might go until I kill. It just depends. Like I'm going to probably head to, and we'll do a podcast at some point and talk about the plans for that. But I'm probably going to start off where I killed the big one the previous time I was in the plains. Because I kind of know the timing of that spot. And so I'm going to kind of be there when I need to be there, and probably only going to spend 2 or 3 days there. And if I see a big one, then, I'll make a play, and then I might hang out for a while longer, if I feel like I'm on something. But if not, then I'm going to a spot in a different area, different unit altogether.
Is that you can hunt multiple units out there?
Yeah, there's a way that you apply for the tag that you can get multiple units as long as they follow certain kind of guidelines. Yeah. So I'll be hopping.
That's that one you were telling me about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned of this from the taxidermist that I dropped my deer off to, and he told me about a spot that is ripe.
The spot he tells everyone. You're gonna go
there.
There's 40 trucks there, like this motherfucker.
It's like, what is going on? Yeah. No, it's crazy because I went there and glassed, after I killed that deer, because I had a day before I could pick the meat up to start driving toward home. I think I drove to Iowa though to see John, like on the way back. But so I had a day to burn, so I just drove there. It was a couple hours away from where I was staying, but I had the whole day. So I got up early in the morning and put some coffee on the in the mug and took off and drove down there and spent a couple hours just driving it to kind of get familiar with it and glass it a little bit and just glass the area and stuff like that. And that was November 9th or something like that. And I think it was November 9th. Didn't see a truck. Yeah. So that was pretty promising. But it'll be a challenging area to hunt. But
I know, like Todd's buddy goes out there. It's always a Thanksgiving. That's when he knows that he goes for the big ones. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get those big day walkers, that's the time to do it. Now, he knows people. He goes out there for Thanksgiving and hangs out with.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. But I mean, it is true. There's certain. I think the challenging part is this: if you want to kind of try to kill a mega, I think that's the best time to be there. You just got to be willing to endure and be okay with the fact that you might go multiple days and not really see deer because they're not going to move as much. Now, you go the time of year that I go, you still have a chance to see a mega, right? You probably kill one. Yeah, you probably aren't going to see them as like the top tier. Yeah. Like, I mean, I killed a good one, but there's certainly bigger ones there, and I had seen them before. Yeah. The chances of seeing that probably aren't as high, You certainly can.
What's your expectations? Because of the longbow, are you lowering?
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, the one I killed previously, that wasn't the expectation going out there. That was, I just wanted to kill a good buck and have fun. Wanted to kill it on the ground. And so he just happened to be the one that I saw, and gave me the opportunity. My goal is still the same as it was before. I'd like to kill like a representative animal. I don't want to kill something that I could kill around here, You
won't shoot a 120 with that thing?
Probably not out there. I wouldn't, just because like.
It's your first buck with a longbow that you had built for you, arrows you built. You're going to pass on a 125-inch caliber deer.
Well, you said 120 before you said 125. You just added 5.
Yeah. So there's your line.
Yeah. I mean, it'll have to get me it'll have to get me fired up.
Yeah.
And also whenever I'm out into those places, I also kind of want to be observant of taking a deer that should be taken,
understandable.
Where it's like, because look, I think what out of state, what residents don't like, at least a lot of the guys that I've talked to, different places that I've hunted, most of the good guys don't mind out-of-staters coming to hunt, especially if they're hunting public land or whatever. Certainly some people do, but a lot of people by and large don't. What I think that they do mind, is that you get someone from PA, for example, or wherever that doesn't historically have really good deer and, maybe the areas that they're hunting, seeing 115 or 120 inch deer is the biggest deer that they might have ever seen before, right? And they come out to a place like that, or like an Iowa or something like that, and they shoot, 120 inch 2.5-year-old, or something like that, and that deer probably had opportunity to be a great deer. That's what they kind of get upset by. Like, you go to those places, if you just want a target rich environment, go to Mississippi or, wherever that has just like a glut of deer you can go chase, you know what I mean? Like, but if you're going to go to those places and spend the money on the tag, like, you want to try to have the experience, right? And for me, it's like the caliber of deer is part of the experience, but I'm not going to hold out for like a mega giant. I mean, 120, what I think about it, you're probably getting pretty close. 130, it's getting shot. You know what I mean? Like
standards out the window.
Yeah. Like that 10, like that's it. You know what I mean? Like it's probably the jump that would probably be like the one where it's like, doesn't matter it now, you know? But you know, we'll see. You know, it also, I mean, I think a lot of those things too is dependent on the area you're in and what you're actually seeing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I glass a really good deer and I'm early in the trip and I'm like, dude, I'm on a good buck. Yeah. I'm going to try to kill that good buck, you know, because that's the other part of it too, is like trying to stalk and get close, you know, with that thing and trying to find, like, not just get lucky and be like, oh, this deer ran by me, but go like the one I killed, be like, I know where he's at. I'm going to go kill him. Yeah. Like that's part of it too, you know, so, but yeah, so those are the
criteria.
Yeah. My criteria.
I'll be a weekend warrior. So
yeah. Is that your plans for next year? Are you going to head to Delaware or anything?
I don't even know. Like, I would like to say yes, but I mean, we're going to hunt, you know, Saturdays and half a day Sunday and come home, you know? So it's like,
right.
Not having that flexibility of time off will be another challenging aspect. It'll, like Adam Miller, he said, you're going to be like you were when you killed all those bucks before.
There you go.
On the weekend.
Yeah.
He's like, you're just, same thing, same mindset. So for me, every set will be a kill set. I'm not going to do like observation or I'm hunting beds.
Right.
That's it. You know, it's like hunting destination points or beds. So it's like every time I go out.
And hunting deer.
Yep. And I'm going out to every set's a kill set.
Yep.
You know, it's like, oh, the bucks are bedding over here. I know I'm going to hunt the marsh probably a little bit more than I have been because I know they bed in certain islands. It's like I have probably a better opportunity in the marsh. You know, this year I definitely was all over them, you know, but the big woods, you know, the pines, it's a little more tricky. You're hunting runs, and it's like you might need 3 days. I don't have 3 days, so it's like I have till noon.
Deer, could you hurry up? Time's a ticking.
So it's like my setup will just be, you know, straight, just killing. Right. You know, no observation sits. I'm not, you know, I'm just going in. You know, I got only Saturdays because I think Annette has running on Sunday evenings all month of October. You know, that's like 8 weeks of 8 Sundays, I think. Mm-hmm. So Sundays are out, you know, Sunday evenings.
All of October, November.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So I think that the running's done the second week in November. So I'm like, all right, you know, so maybe get some early season after work action in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Saturday morning's going to be my thing.
Nice.
Saturday and Sunday morning.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm
going old school.
Going old school. I don't know how long I'll be. I'm going to definitely go back to where I was at this year in PA. I'm going to do some camper trips, you know, and stay up there in the trailer some more because I just had a lot of fun doing that. I just enjoyed it. Plan to do that again. And I enjoyed hunting that area. It hunts like a MFer during October, but I learned a ton and I feel like it sharpened the blade a little bit, spending that much time in a really hard place to hunt. And
it's humbling. Sometimes we need those scenarios. You get your clock cleaned, and it's like, and you can't get mad. You got to be like, it's either keep doing what I'm doing, or B, I need to make some changes and get better. You know, and most people, I mean, a lot of people, they just keep doing what they do.
Yep.
Same results. You know, it's like, me personally, I'm not a fan of that. So it's like, this whooped my ass. I need to make a change. Either I need to go hunt somewhere else, take a break, you know? Or I need to get better because this sucks.
But when the travel trip, it's 2 weeks most likely, but it might also be extended. I guess we'll put it that way. It just depends on what I get into out there. You know, I'll be in the trailer. I'm like most years I don't take my work computer. Yeah. And that's kind of like, all right, I got to come home. Yeah. You know, because I need my work computer. But this year, since I have Starlink and stuff, I think I'm just going to take the work computer with me. And that way, if like next to last day, I end up getting on a good buck and I'm like, man, I wish I had 3 more days. It's like, well, I'm just going to do some working and living from there and extend the stay a little bit.
LIVIN.
Yeah. And do it. I'm like, I might as well take advantage of, you know,
your flexibility. Why not?
Yeah. But cool, man. Well, speaking of flexibility, dude, I'll let you get out of here, let you get flexible and get back home to the tribe. But Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah,
Always like hanging out with you. We need to do this more often. We don't do it nearly often enough. But we need to get together and shoot at some point. But before you get out of here, let people know where they can find out what's going on with the Mr. Bow Hunting Fiend.
Instagram. Working on some videos probably for YouTube about my experience on shooting left-handed. You know, I'm going to try to anyway. I don't know. I'm not.
It's going to film it left-handed too, so it should be shaky.
I was like, I think just talking about it and maybe would be reassuring. And
no, I think you'll definitely have some people that it'll help.
Yeah.
You know, the crazy thing is, there's probably a lot more people than we realize go through the same thing that you went through. You know, and could learn from it or ask you questions about, hey man, I messed up my shoulder and I'm gonna have to use a mouth tab this year. Or, hey, I messed up my hand, or for any number of things. Yeah. You know, but cool, man. Well, it's always a good time hanging out with you, brother. Safe travels on your way home, and we'll do it again soon.
Later.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and if you haven't yet, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And hell, while you're at it, head over to YouTube and give us a sub there too. I'd be super appreciative if you do those couple things for me. And before I shut this thing down, I need to give a big shout out to our partners who continue to help us make this podcast possible: Tacticam, Osseo Gear, Hawk Optics, Tethered, Face Off E-Bikes, and Lathrop & Sons Boot Company. And until next time, we'll see y'all.